So there he goes again. President Biden going after those evil rich people and those evil, horrible corporations, and in general, wanting to punish success. Hey, let's get together and redistribute, right? No, wrong. Anyway, joining me to weigh in on this, Idaho Senator Mike Crapo, who is the ranking member of the important Senate Finance Committee. Senator Crapo, welcome back to the show. None of this crap's going to go through, but it was just interesting to me. Biden can't help himself. We've got to tax wealthy people who already pay, right, 42% of the income tax revenues. So, all right, fine. Soon it'll be 50. Soon it'll be 60. But wait, taxing stock buybacks, taxing corporations, minimum taxes, blaming big oil. Senator Crapo, did you have a good time last night at the State of the Union?
Well, no, Larry, I did not. It's not that I didn't expect it. The president said, let's finish the job, and it sounds like he doesn't think he's finished. $4.8 trillion of mostly debt-financed spending in the last 2 years, trillions of dollars of taxes in what it appears that he's proposing to come forward to us with another who knows how many $1 trillion of new spending. It's more tax and spending, and like you said, trying to blame other people and take credit, frankly, for things that haven't even happened yet.
You know, just on that, I should have put this in my riff. Biden's chant, let's finish the job. What is that means he's going to run for re-election, or that means he's going to push his big government socialist agenda more? How did you read that, Senator Crapo?
Well, like most people, I read it to say that he is going to run for re-election, but I also read it to say, we didn't get everything that we were demanding in the last 2 years. And like I said, we only got $4.8 trillion of mostly debt-financed new spending and new taxes. We need to do more. And look at what he proposed in his speech. It's hard to tally it all up, but it looks like we're in for proposals now that will push us right back in to the spiral that has put us in the inflationary crisis that we're in right now.
I mean, that's a thing. It was like an exhaustive list with add-ons, plenty of add-ons. I mean, he wants to regulate everything. He wants to regulate resorts, but then he says, well, some of these aren't resorts, but he wants to regulate what they charge you. He wants to regulate your baggage and your luggage. I mean, if it moves, regulate it and tax it, I suppose. I'm sitting there. We're on set in Washington doing Fox stuff. I was just stunned by this lengthy list of, it's like every left-wing Democratic itch was scratched last night.
Yeah, and you're right. It wasn't just more taxes and more spending, but it was more regulating. It doesn't seem like there was anything he didn't touch. And the bottom line here is that although he took credit for 12 million new jobs, those were jobs that came from the recovery from the pandemic, jobs that were lost and then just recovered. Nothing that he did really gave us more jobs. And the bottom line is, with regard to spending, is that we cannot spend ourselves into prosperity. And I thought it was very clear. He was just saying, hey, we're not done yet. Let's finish the job.
Senator, that's a good point, too, on this total job. I haven't dug into that, but the generosity of government benefits without work requirements suggests that somewhere is between 5 and 7 million able-bodied people who were employed are on unemployment. They just don't want to work. And I guess Biden would never agree to a workfare or work requirement stipulation. But that would be, I think, a good structural reform in this debt ceiling debate.
I agree. We have fought for work requirements for years and years. And when we have won those fights, they have proven to work very, very effectively. The people across this country are not afraid of work. It's those who are trying to just spend and, frankly, create an entitlement society, a society in which those who want to live off of the government dole and not work have an opportunity to do so. But the vast majority of Americans don't believe that's the way we should approach it.
Senator, you're on the Finance Committee, which governs tax policy, among many other things. You think any of that stuff's going to get through?
Oh no, I don't think so at all. You know, his big hit last night was to say that we should make the rich people who are cheating on their taxes pay their fair share. You've already pointed out with the statistic that you threw out about the top 1% already pay 42+%. The top 50% of income earners in America pay 97.7% of the taxes. And the tax rates, the effective tax rate on those who pay these taxes is much higher than others. And so the bottom line is he's creating a false premise. And the reality here is that our tax code is working very well right now and does not need to be reformed. Let me give you just another couple statistics. In this last year, collected almost $5 trillion, $4.9 trillion in tax revenue. That is record tax revenue. Our tax system is working. We also saw that the corporate payments were $425 billion, far more than was projected before we passed our tax cut legislation in 2017. It's working, and the president is creating false goblins here to try to justify more taxes on people, on everyday Americans. In fact, I'll also add, he's proposing new corporate taxes, but the corporations don't bear the burdens of these taxes. Workers do.
That's right.
And retirees do.
That's
and
right.
Consumers do. You know, we're going to see prices go up. We're going to see people's retirement and pension plans lose. And we're going to see workers with lower wages and lower benefits because of the taxes that he's now proposing.
That is such a key point, Senator Crapo. That is just such a totally important point. Biden has killed the middle class, blue collars, with high inflation and lower purchasing power, killed them, and now he wants to come and tax businesses who hire them. So going to cut profits, going to cut their pay, going to cut job opportunities. I mean, you're just so spot on. But that's not the democratic socialist way of thinking, right? We have to raise taxes in order to finance more spending because spending is the key to life.
Yeah, but you know, I think most Americans get it. The fact is that we see groceries are now 18% higher than when he took office. Gasoline is 37% higher than when he took office. Electricity is 20% higher than when he took office. And the bottom line here is that the inflationary increases are also a hidden tax on all people in America, particularly the middle and lower income categories or earners in America.
Yes, sir. Senator Mike Crapo, thank you, sir. Spot on. Great stuff. Talk soon. Thanks
Thank you.
a lot.
Good to be with you.